When we got to the bank, I was so excited to open an account for him. I told him how much I wished I had an account there. I said, let's make a joint account at that bank that gives credit for us. I had a credit card there, and he wanted to get one too. While we were there, the manager called me and said, Simone, come here for us. I went over right away. There was a lot of talking, and I was so happy to be there. When we got to the bank, I showed them the documents I had sent over. I said, let's make a joint account, since the bank was giving us credit. I had a credit card, and he wanted to get one too. Then, the manager called me and spoke to Simone. I went over right away. There was a lot of paperwork. The manager spoke. She said, I got his chip. He has various CPF. I said, what she said is he has more of a CPF. I said it is not possible. Then, she said, but his name, right surname, it is a surname. There is no way to have. Then, I waited for him to come back. At night, I told him that the account had not been approved because more CPF appeared in your name. So mine to my life since childhood, thus had horror stories. But I started to relate to the same pattern when I was born. My father wanted a boy, and at that time, only sex was known at birth. My mother had already suffered that rejection, and it passed to me. So, I grew up wanting to show my father who was worth a girl. I charged myself to be the better student and do everything that he found beautiful. I spent my life to please my father. When I was born, my parents were disappointed because they wanted a boy. At that time, they only knew about sex at birth. My mother had already suffered that disappointment, and I grew up wanting to show my father that I was a girl. I charged myself to be the best student I could be, knowing that he found it beautiful. I spent my life trying to please my father, and I ended up being the daughter he liked the most. My brother didn't meet his expectations. I grew up seeing my mother in an abusive relationship. My father had lovers, but he didn't care about her. He didn't give her any love or affection. He recognized the wonderful woman he had when he met her, and he had already passed away by the time I was born. He could have taken advantage of her. I don't know what will happen when I start to relate. I was really hurt because of the bullying and humiliation I experienced in my family. My mother was in a relationship with a man who was very abusive. My father had a good financial situation, and his sisters didn't have much. I was crazy about my cousins, but my sister was different. She did well, and her daughter did well. I lived in a state of love for my cousins, but I suffered an abusive relationship with them. I think that marked me. I was already really hurt because in my family, I also suffered from bullying and humiliation because my mother went from sisters you married. My father was very well off financially, and her sisters weren't around, so there was a lot of competition. I was crazy about my cousins, but this difference was known to my sister. She did well, but her daughter came along, and I was in love with my cousins, but I suffered an abusive relationship with them. I think that's what marked me. What I went through was because my father had a bankruptcy, and then he recovered. It was like that, full of ups and downs. Then, when he had this bankruptcy, my mother had to leave me at her sister's house and my brother at the other house, and I was really affected by it. I took a big hit because I went home to an aunt who spoke to me. Now, I will educate you the right way. Your mother lets you eat what you want. I had a really tough time after my father went bankrupt. It was a roller coaster of a time, and my mother had to leave me with my aunt and uncle for a while. I was really affected by it because I had a very close relationship with my mother. She was very strict about what I could and couldn't eat, and I didn't get to do what I wanted at home. I had a nanny, but it was a very different life. Then, when I went to my aunt's house, I was shocked to find out that I wasn't allowed to open the refrigerator. I felt really hurt because I had always been able to do that in my own house. I was used to having a lot of freedom, and it was really hard to adjust to my aunt's rules. Your mother was very strict about soda, and you didn't help at home. I didn't do anything because my mother had help from employees. I had a nanny, and I had a different kind of life. Then, when I arrived at my aunt's, I was shocked to find that we had to clean the house. I went to open the refrigerator, and she said I hadn't been allowed to. In my house, there was never any of that. I was used to some things my mother left behind. She said, "Here, the rule is another. You will see how many dicks a canoe can hold." I felt totally abandoned, and there was a clear rejection because she made it very clear that I was not adequate. I think I was about 8 years old when I stayed there for a while until my dad recovered and my mother rented another house. We lived until we had a good life, but the problem was that the family spoke so they thought they were. She said, "Here, the rule is that you can't say anything. You'll see how many dicks a canoe can hold." I felt totally rejected right then, and it was hard. I think I was about 8 years old. I stayed there for a while until my dad recovered and my mom found another house. We lived there until we were doing okay. But the problem is that the family spoke so highly of themselves. They thought they were right, and so did I. You know how people sometimes celebrate their defeat? I suffered a lot because I received several criticisms, but if I made an observation, they spoke to us like, you don't eat ours. You are full of freshness." I don't know what I said, but I don't know what I said. I spoke like this, ours. You could use your hair aside. That is, you want to say that I'm ugly. I'm not sure what you mean. I'm not sure what you're talking about. I stopped talking because I was worried about the consequences of what I said. I thought it would have consequences, but it didn't. I thought about it, and then when I started dating, I dated men who were like my dad. I said what I wanted, but I had to behave. Then I dated someone who was. I'm not the prettiest girl around, and I'm not sure what you're talking about. So, I didn't say much because I was afraid of the consequences. But I didn't let what they said affect me at the time. Then, when I started dating, I met a man who was very controlling. He wanted me to behave a certain way, and I did. We dated for a while, but it didn't work out. I was working a lot with him, and his business was growing. I was so busy that I didn't have time for myself, and he wasn't happy about it. I felt like it wasn't good for me, but I couldn't stop. Then, I met someone, and it felt good. I felt like I could trust him, and I started dating him. My father was a very controlling man. He was dominant in our relationship, and he was very possessive. He didn't want me to date, and he didn't approve of the men I dated. I felt good when I met someone who was a good person and who made me feel safe. He was a strong man who made me feel loved. I felt like I was chosen when I met him. I was 25, and he was 4. I met him when I was 25 or 26. He was 40. He was a handsome, famous stock car pilot and champion. He was a strong man who made me feel safe and secure. I thought he was the man of my dreams. I was wrong. He was a perverse narcissist. He dominated me. He spent the weekend at his house. He was a man like me. He was handsome, famous, and a champion stock car pilot. He was the kind of man who would love you and choose you. I thought, wow, I'm really getting into this relationship today. I understand. He dominated me right from the start, and I was totally involved. He said, "Look, I'll get you because we will travel." We went to the beach a lot. "How do you stop working?" I stopped working for a while. My father had a restaurant where I worked. Then I said, "Time for him. I'm ready." He said, "I will." He closed his store. "I'll go with you, and we'll travel together." He took a little bit of time off, and he spoke to me like that. I don't know, it was almost like coming home. I forgot you at the time, and I thought, wow, we have to travel together. But I don't know, it was silly right then. I was arranging an outfit to dress myself. It was considered because I was a model when I was underage. I modeled, and then I turned into someone who understood fashion and such. He said, "I'll go with you," and then he stopped and spoke to me like that. I don't know why, but it felt like we were almost home. I forgot you at the time, but I thought, wow, we had to travel together. But I don't know, silly right then. I was arranging an outfit to wear, because in my youth, right when I was underage, I was a model. I paraded, and then I turned into someone who understood fashion and such. People have always praised me for walking very well and dressing well and having good taste. He turned to me and said, "You don't know how to dress your clothes, and I'll warn you. I don't want you to wear a dress and get out there to the restaurant where you work with your father." But everything was done in a sneaky way, right? I beat the blow, and I was fitting into his life right, and he knew I was a person who always. People have always praised me for my good looks and sense of style. One day, he looked at me and said, "You don't know how to dress yourself, and I'll tell you why. I don't want you to wear a dress and go to the restaurant where you work with your dad." But everything was done in secret. I was trying to fit into his life, and he knew I was someone who always had anxiety. When it attacks, Anxiety gives that fear that makes us think we're going to die. I told him that I drive, but I don't like to walk alone because I'm afraid. Then one day, we were going home, and he had a weekend house that he was going to spend the end of the week in. I told him that it had a pool and everything, and we were on the road. I was struggling with an anxiety disorder, and when it would hit, it would bring on that fear and panic. I told him that I drive well, but I don't like walking alone because I'm afraid. Then, one day, we were on our way home from a weekend getaway at a house he had. I said, "It's like a summer house. It had a pool and everything." We were on the road. At Hurton, he suddenly sped up from 100 to 200 miles per hour. I said, "Slow down. I'm afraid." He turned to me and said, "I think I'll leave you here on the road." "I'm leaving," I said. "You're being unreasonable. Why can't you just leave me here?" At Hurton Cena, the car suddenly sped up from 100 to 200. I said, "I'm sorry, but I'm worried that if I speak, it might make things worse." He turned to me and said, "I think I'll leave you here on the road." "I'm leaving," I said. "You're not going to leave me here, are you?" He said, "Why not?" I said, "Can you leave me here?" At the end, it was all dark. The girl gave me an ice cream, and I knew. So I said, "For the love of God, you won't do this to me, right?" He said, "I don't know. I don't want to make a girl the worst moment of my life because I spoke. Let me go. Someone will kill me. Know how to do something with me." I was scared when he got out of the car. I was left in the dark about a lot of things, like how Ayrton Senna was all dark. At the end, the girl who gave me an ice cream gave me a knowing look. I said, "For the love of God, you won't do this to me, right?" I was trying not to panic because I knew that making a girl was the worst moment of my life. I was afraid that if I spoke, someone would kill me. I was scared when he got out of the car and came over to me. He said, "I'm playing with you," but I knew I had already been bad. I said, "I'm kidding. You think I was going to leave you here? Imagine you are crazy." We went and I always didn't go back home, so you can get home thinking, "Well, talk. I'm out." We were going to spend a weekend that weekend. He was going. We had a friendly chat. He said he would take care of me, and I felt better. I was nervous, and I was sweating when he saw that I was already feeling unwell. He said, "I'm just playing with you," but I knew I had done something wrong. I thought he was going to leave me here. Imagine you are crazy. We went back home, and I didn't go back to mine, so you can get home thinking, "Well, talk. I'm out." We were going to spend the weekend together. He was going to treat me really well, and I was going to do all the work. I was new, and he apologized right away. I stayed, and to complete the situation, he had a mother who was a narcissistic mother-in-law. This son today, I understand this. He is a misogynist who hates women. You know what I mean. I speak of it until I can't take it anymore. He hates women, because his mother is his catch. He was so kind to me, and I was so grateful for his help. I was new to the job, and he apologized for everything. I stayed, and he had a mother who was a narcissistic mother-in-law. I understand now that he is a misogynist who hates women. I couldn't stop talking about it. He hated the woman for no reason. His mother was a widow very early. He was 3 or 4 years old, and she was addicted to a game that had a time limit. It was a game of Nina's at a casino, and she was going to play. She would take him to the family release. I would walk with him, and we would travel together. He went with me, and she spent all the money. She told me right away that she spent all the money, and she wanted to play, so she went into a room with Ava. He was a kind, loving man who was very generous. He had a passion for a game called Nina's, which was played at a casino. He would take her to the game and she would go with him. They would walk together and he would travel with her. But she spent all the money. She told him right away that she wanted to play, so she went into a room with Ava. He was waiting right there. She made money to be able to play, and he always watched. He created a love and hate relationship with his mother. After spending time with her, she felt guilty, so she loved her son in a different way. When I entered his life, she made a campaign to bring me because it couldn't be any more important. I suffered mistreatment from him and her, but I couldn't get out of the relationship. He was waiting for her in a room, and he was always watching. He created a love and hate relationship with his mother, and after spending time with her, she felt guilty. She loved her son in a different way, and when I entered his life, She made a campaign to bring me. It was very important to her, and I suffered mistreatment from both of them, but I couldn't get out of the relationship. I couldn't get away from myself. I arrived at a time when I was angry with myself. It happened once we were in moto, and I couldn't even look at the sides. We were passing by, and there were several bars on the edge of the beach. I went looking for someone, and I saw a man that I liked in one of the bars. He stopped the motorcycle and spoke to me. You know that bar there? I can't go there because. I had a little chat with the owner, and he said he wanted to test my loyalty by asking me to visit a certain person I liked but didn't even know. I asked, why do you want me to go there? He replied, I want you to give her a message. I said, no, I won't go there because I'm going to go there. Why don't you go there? He looked a little confused. I had a little chat with the owner, and he asked me to pass on a message to her. He wanted to test my loyalty, since I didn't even know her. I said, why do you want me to go there? I want you to pass on a message to her. He said, no, I won't go there because I'm going to do so. I said, and why don't you go there? I don't know what strange thing you are telling me. He said, not because I thought you liked to look inside, or something there. I said, I don't believe that you think I saw someone there, right, and I was with him, so I didn't. I was once on the croup of my motorcycle, and he was riding with me. He was angry about something I said. I said, I don't know him. I passed on the speed bumps thing. I'm a bit puzzled by what you're saying. He said, not because I thought you liked to look inside, but because I thought you liked something there. I said, I don't think you thought I saw someone there, and I was with him, so I didn't. How did I return home when it happened? These things right once I was on the croup of my motorcycle, and he was. I was going with him, and he was angry about something I said. I don't know him. He passed on the speed bumps. With everything for me, the motorcycle fell, so I jumped like this. I wanted to fall, but I held on so tight. I think he trusted that I was going to hold on really tight, but I went there. So fighting not to fall off the motorcycle. And when we got there, he spoke to me about how weak you are, right? You are very weak, and so I was going, but then I started counting. So the bad part, right, because in this one half you did something good, right? He asked for forgiveness. I was on my motorcycle when I took a spill, but I managed to hang on tight. He thought I was a bit weak, but I was determined to keep going. Then, he did something really nice. He asked for forgiveness and defended his mother. I was getting my room in order, so I took the bag she left on the table and put it in the corner. I took her bag and put it in the corner. She opened her bag and said, someone took my money. Someone took my bag from here and left it there. I said, I was so upset that someone took my bag. I said, who took my bag? Who cursed at me? I don't know you, and I don't know what I was accused of, thief. He made a defense with me, and the people were very kind. I had this dependence, and this is a thing that you say. My God, I don't know. I can once again. I made a comment that we were in a place, and I made a comment there. I was so confused. He made a defense, saying that his mother thinks I don't know him and doesn't know what I was accused of. He made a defense with me, and the people were very kind to each other, because they are perfect, right? I had this dependence, and this is a thing that you say, my God. I don't. I can once again. I made a comment that we were in a place, right? And I made a comment there. You saw that couple, right? I think they were arguing. I stayed calm, so he caught and spoke like this. You are a person, you are criticizing all of the world. You, he started to make a story right. I started punching my mouth until as soon as I said I won't talk anymore. Nothing, I only say wrong, and I gave Murray is once we are traveling far, and he turned to me and said, it's very ugly, you are very ugly. You saw that couple, right? I think they were arguing. I didn't want to upset him, so I didn't say anything. He started to turn the story around, and I started punching my mouth until I said I wouldn't talk anymore. I only said wrong things, and I gave Maru a hard time. Once, when we were traveling far away, he turned to me and said, you're very ugly. You're very thin. You look like an old woman. I was new, young, and he said I looked like an old woman because I'm always cold. I said, I'm a person, fry or eater. He says you're RO. I will tell you something. I just want you. No one will want you. No one will want you. And if you know that this man had 3 children in his first marriage, I took care of the 3 children, his 3 oldest, including me. I called a mother right so. I was thin, and he said I looked like an old woman because I was always cold. I'm a person who is always cold. He said, you are my orator, and I replied, I want you, but no one else will want you. No one will want you. This man had 3 children from his first marriage, and I took care of the 3 of them, including the eldest, who was also my son. I was like a mother to them. I had to bathe and change when we spent the weekend with the children. I had to bathe and change their food. He made me take care of everything. I did everything to please this man because if I pleased him, he would be good. He was good at first, so I did everything he asked. It was never good. Sometimes, I was driving, and he suddenly stopped next to me on his motorcycle, so I was startled. I had to bathe and change clothes for the children when we spent the weekend with them. I had to bathe and change food for them. He made me take care of everything. I did everything to please this man because if I pleased him, he would be good. He was good at first, so I did it without complaining. It was good, never nothing was good. He always was. Sometimes, I was in the car, driving. Suddenly, he stopped with a motorcycle beside me, so I was startled. He spoke like this, I'm following you because I wanted to know if you flirt. In traffic, he watched me the whole time. I thought I was going to be my first beating. He spoke to me. He was going to take my work, and we were going to get out there. I said, good. He doesn't leave me wear a skirt to work. Right, and I obeyed. I took it and said, I will put it on my car and an outfit at the time he has to arrive. He said, I'm following you because I'm curious to see if you flirt. In the car, he watched me the whole time. Then, he said, I think I'll be the one getting beat up. He spoke to me, saying he was going to take my work, and we were going to get out there. I said, okay, he doesn't leave me wearing a skirt to work, right? I obeyed, took it, and said, I'll put it on my car and the outfit at the time he has to arrive. He said, I want to stay with the clothes he leaves. He thought I was beautiful, right? He arrived before me. I said, as if it arrived before he spoke. He said, I like to see what you are doing right with who you are talking to, and such. I don't trust women pay, and those things all. Then he said, we go to your car because my car is just washed and I won't dirty it. I said, okay, there we went to mine. I had an outfit. I asked, would I want to stay with the clothes he left? He thinks they're beautiful, right? Only he arrived before I did. I said as if it arrived before he spoke because I like to see what you're doing with who you're talking to, and such. I don't trust women, pay, and all that. Then he said, we go to your car because my car is just washed and I won't dirty it. I said, okay, let's go to mine. I had an outfit behind my back. We entered a place to stay together. He said, why did you have an outfit back there? I said, because you were going to give it to me. You arrived before I was going to change to you. He spoke like this, the outfit is because suddenly you were going to go out with someone before I arrived, and you invented a story. In his head, he said, I'm willing to give you a beating. I heard him take a deep breath. I couldn't demonstrate fear because we went to a place to stay together. He said, why did you bring an outfit? I said, because you were going to give time. You arrived before I was going to change clothes. He said, this outfit is because you were going to go out with someone before I arrived, and you invented a story. I heard him say, I'm willing to beat you up. I took a deep breath. I couldn't demonstrate fear because I already had. The more fear you feel, the better, right? I said, good. You know right, but you already stopped thinking about how your father would react. He thought for a moment and said, your father walks with those mobsters, Italians, right? They will end me. That type of man is cowardly, right? I said, you know, but I'm thinking of you. You know who they are. His friends, right? I had experienced fear before, and it was really hard. I said, good, you know what to do. But he stopped thinking about how my father would react. He thought, your father walks with those mobsters, Italians, and they will end me. He thought that those men were cowardly. I said, you know, but I'm thinking of you. You know who they are. They're his friends, and they won't forgive you. I said, I'll have to fix things the way you like. I managed to get out of there. I got locked in the bathroom, and he gave me some punishments. I accepted, but then I started to question myself. I thought, why should I care about that type of paper? I had people who spoke to me. Simone, that's happening. I'm very important to his friends, but they won't forgive you. I said I would have to fix things the way you wanted. I managed to escape, and I locked myself in the bathroom. He gave me some punishments, and I accepted, but then I started to question myself. I thought, why do I care about that type of paper? I had people who spoke to me. Simone, that's happening to you because you abandoned yourself right there. I no longer took care of my hair because he didn't leave. I didn't go to the hairdresser. I didn't do my nails. I dedicated myself only to him right then. I said, my God, I need help. I thought, with me? I need help. And then one day, we were in a bookstore, and I was going to get coffee. I saw a book, but I don't even know if I can say the name of the book. I felt so overwhelmed that I didn't even think about my hair, and I didn't go to the hairdresser. I didn't even take care of my nails. I was completely devoted to him. I thought, my God, I need help. One day, we were in a bookstore, and I was going to get a coffee. I saw a book that I didn't even know the name of. It's called Calls Women Who Love Too Much. I got the book cover and opened it while he was looking at magazines. I opened it and started looking. I said, my God, I need to read this book. But I knew I was so afraid of him. I said, he won't leave me. Buy the book, but if he doesn't say anything, I'll take it. I went to see something else that I wanted to. I saw him from far away. He's a bit of a codependent, and I'm a sucker for women who love too much. I got the book cover and opened it while he was looking through magazines. I started reading and said, my God, I need to read this book. But I knew I had so much fear of him. I said, he won't leave me, but I will leave if he doesn't say anything. I'll take the book. I went to see something else that I wanted to, and I saw from afar that he went to look at the book I was reading. He gave me a look, came over to me, and said, I don't want you to read this book. You won't read this book. I said, okay, I don't imagine I have the patience to read a book this thick, especially since I only just finished another one the other day. So I went there and bought the book and started reading. I started to understand a lot of things that were happening to me in my childhood. I found that women who... He was there to look at the book I was reading. He gave me a look, came over to me, and said, I don't want you to read this book. You will not read this book. I said, okay, I understand. I don't even have the patience to read one book this thick. Only recently, I went there and bought the book, and started reading. I started to understand a lot of things that were happening to me in my childhood. I found that women who are emotionally codependent fall into the hands of these men, and such. I started to understand. Then I saw that I needed to do therapy. I needed help to leave this relationship. I wanted to understand why, too. So, I went into his hidden therapy. I read the book, Hidden. I started doing several things that I didn't tell him. I did various types of therapy, and I set up a self-talk. I entered one in the How Do We Talk right in an intensification of I realized that I was in an emotionally codependent relationship with one of these men. I started to understand that I needed to get help and leave the relationship. I wanted to understand why I was so attached to him. I went to therapy and read the book Hidden. I did several things that I didn't tell him, and I did various types of therapy. I entered one in the intensification of everything that spoke like this. If you spoke to me, or if you peed on a horse, you would drop from the car. I had a horse pee. Right then, I started this work, and I said, I will. I'll get it. There I got something here. I got something there that not even example, if I'm a coat, was cold. Where we were, he spoke like this. For me, R is bigger. You don't even ask if I want your. If you spoke to me in that way, I would have been very scared. I had a horse pee right then, and I started working on this project. I said, I will. I'll get it. I'll get it there. I managed to get something here, and I got something there. That's not even. If I'm a coat, it was cold where we were. He spoke to me like this. He said, R is bigger. You don't even ask if I want your coat. He inverted. We were in a place where a drip started. He said, you go to sleep under the drip. I thought that was okay. Even that day, he threatened to be my pillow. So I ran a risk because he told me, if a day, I know that you are cheating on me, you die. This won't have a conversation that will move me, so I spent a lot of fear and became dependent on this. I had a hard time trusting people, and that made me anxious. I remember one time when I was traveling and a drip started. He said, "Go to sleep under the drip," and I thought, okay, fine. But he also threatened to use my breath as a pillow, so I was scared. I thought, if the day, I cheat on you, you die. This made me anxious, and I became dependent on him. I was scared because it was like a drug that I used, and then there was a consequence. A psychoanalyst explained to me that I needed treatment for my psychological and psychiatric issues. I didn't want to go, but he insisted on staying from Monday to Tuesday because he was also afraid of getting married. I wanted something from him, so I went to my house after 3 days. He was like that too. If I had a fever, he took me home. I was scared because he was like a drug that I used, and then I had to deal with the consequences. A psychiatrist explained to me that I needed treatment, and I was like, oh, I need that. So, I didn't want to go to a wedding because I was afraid of what might happen. For example, I was 3 days into it when I went to my house, and he was like, I won't take care of you because I don't take care of myself. I take care of myself. I don't take care of nobody. We traveled a lot, and sometimes we stayed 15 days in a place that I understood, and I had no way to return. At that time, there was no Uber, so I couldn't ask my father to drop his work to come and pick me up. It was a lot more difficult. I said, I can't take care of you, because I don't take care of myself. I don't take care of anyone. And we traveled a lot, sometimes staying 15 days in a place that made sense for us. I had no way of returning. There was no Uber, no easy way to get around. So, I couldn't ask my father to drop his work to come pick me up. It was really tough. I was at his mercy. On the way back, I asked for forgiveness, saying, no, I don't want to do that. He loves me. He can't live without me. But that just made things worse. I stayed, but then I started therapy, and I started to face him. One day, I had the courage to do it because I had a lot of support. My family supported me. I was really struggling at the time. Even on the way back, he was asking for forgiveness, saying he didn't want to do that he loved me, that he couldn't live without me. It was a lot to take in. I was staying, but then I started seeing a therapist, and I started to feel stronger. One day, I had the courage to take action because I had a lot of support, right? My father didn't want this relationship, and I had the support of my psychiatrist and therapist. Do you know that, friends? I had a lot of support, and then one day, he did something to me, right? I told him to stop, and he left. I went to my house, and I spoke. I said, oh, you are a guy. I had never said anything to him like that. I said, you lead a mediocre life. Your life is horrible. Dad, he didn't want this relationship, and I had the support of the psychiatrist therapist. You know that, right? I had a lot of support, and then one day he did something to me. I told him to stop, and he left. I went to my house, and he left. I said, you are a guy, eh? I had never said anything to him. I said, you lead a mediocre life. Your life is horrible, and you dragged me to this. He looked at my face and laughed, and he couldn't do anything. I went down to his door, and he said, you will have to crawl behind me. I spent a week not caring about him, and then he called and said, who do you think you are? You are farting me, right? You are breaking me. I said, you pulled me into your life, and I turned your trash can into a mess. You played on me, and I looked at your face, laughing. You couldn't come to my door, so I went down to him. He said, you will have to crawl behind me. I spent a week not caring about him, and then he called and said, who do you think I am? You are farting me, right? You are breaking me. I said, you didn't understand. It's over, he said. I doubt I said then what I can make. I already go to other places. I met new people, and he said, you don't do more part of my life. This won't last. I'm sure it won't last because you won't be able to be without. I turned off the good phone. I lost 8 kilograms. I had my intestine for one. He said, it's over. I was confused, so I asked, what do you mean? I'm already going to other places because I met new people. You won't be part of my life anymore, he said. This won't last. I knew it wouldn't last because I couldn't live without him. I turned off the phone. I lost 8 kilograms in 5 days. I had my intestine for 1 day. I cried for 3 days without stopping. My mother was holding my hand, and I spoke to my dad. I said, I don't know what to do. She can't stop right now. So I spent some time in my room, and my mother was there. She is a woman of faith. She prayed. Later, I knew my father gave a dinner to celebrate that I finished with him. But then he went to the store to change a sign because he hired a guy to do this. I cried for 5 days straight, 3 days without stopping. My mother was holding my hand, and I said to my dad, I don't know what to do. She can't stop right now. So I spent some time in my room, and my mother was there with me. She's a woman of faith. She prayed, and later I knew my father had given a dinner to celebrate that I finished with him. But then, he went up to the store to change a sign because he had hired a guy to do it. He exchanged a plate for a large one, and the guy put a plaque on it. He said, want to know? I will go up there. Fell from up when he fell. His father was going to call my father, who had a lot of influence. I knew a lot of people, right? And then his father spoke to my father, saying, the so-and-so can't, and the so-and-so fell. I don't know what to do. My father spoke. He exchanged a plate for a large one, and the guy put a plate on. He spoke, saying, I will go up there. Fell from up when he fell. His father was going to call my father, who had a lot of influence. I knew a lot of people, and then his father spoke to my father, saying, we cannot. So-and-so fell. I don't know what I do there. My father speaked, call Samuel. No. Calls Samuel. I'm going to go. I'm going to find a way because he said he has no agreement. I don't even know where I am. I heard I took my father's key and said, driving. I don't pass. I didn't stop. No lighthouse. I arrived before Samu. Right then, Sam arrived, and then Chegg arrived at the time had a program. Calls Samuel. No, I'm going to go. I'm going to find a way because he said he didn't agree, right? I don't even know where I'm going. I heard I took my father's key and said, I'm driving. I don't pass. I didn't stop. No lighthouse. I arrived before Samu, and then Samu arrived, and then Chegg arrived. At SBT, right when there was such a serious accident, right, and he was known. They arrived with cameras and everything. I went with him inside the ambulance, and he treated me like this. You know, saying people take care of her. She's scared. He thought she was the best person in the world. People there thought he loved this woman. I went with him, and he arrived inside. His arm had turned the wrong way, right the hip, everything was hurt. When the accident happened, my father was there with his camera, ready to capture the moment. I went with him inside the ambulance, and he treated me with care. He said, people take care of her. She's scared. She's like he had her. Everyone thought he loved this woman. I went with him, and he had his arm in a sling. He had been hurt really badly. When they were working on his arm, he said, she has panic. He made one of ours. I was able to enter and leave the hospital whenever I wanted. I turned to my father and said, if he's going to be in a wheelchair, I will take care of him. He has no one. He has no friend. He hates his mother. He doesn't want to stay in her hand. I was there for him, and I was there for his children, too. I wanted to make sure he had the support he needed. I told my father, if he ends up in a wheelchair, I'll take care of him because he doesn't have anyone else. My father said, you won't do that with us. I felt guilty, but I did what I thought was right. I was worried about him, and I was worried about the guy who was setting tiles from above. My father was trying to help, and he was trying to make sure that the man didn't fall. He arranged for a hospital vacancy, the best surgeon, and everything else he could. I'll take care of him, my father said. You won't do that with us. You won't do that. And you, because he was stressed. I felt guilty because I finished with him. He was stressed, and I was guilty. The guy was setting a tile and coming from low to high, right? But then my father went to turn to this man, get good, right? Not to be an R. Then my father arranged for a hospital vacancy, arranged the best surgeon, and such. He went to pack everything for him. He has an amputated leg. One leg was a little shorter than the other. But then I was going to visit him in the hospital. I was with my treatment, doing my treatment. I went to the hospital, and funny that I was a friend of his ex, right? Because the day I met her, as soon as we started dating, we looked how interesting we were. We went to get his children to spend the weekend with him. She looked at I went to pack everything for him, and he was a little short of a shoe. He had a little hump, but that's nothing to worry about. I was planning on visiting him in the hospital, where I was undergoing treatment. I went to the hospital, and wouldn't you know it, I was friends with his ex. The day I met her, we hit it off right away and spent the weekend with his children. She looked at me and said, "I pity you. What will you go through?" I thought she was envious of me. He ended up with his triad, me, her, and his children. Then I found her because she went to visit him. She said, "Oh, look. I hope you stay with him. You have a girl." I didn't have a girl, I said. "No, dear. I don't. I'm going to." When she left, she said, "I feel sorry for you." I thought she was envious. He left her and had a relationship with 3 of us. Then, I found her because she went to visit him. She said, "I hope you stay with him and have a girl." I said, "No, I don't. I'm going to come visit because I know he has no one." When we arrived, he spoke to both of us in the room like that. He said, "Look at my 2 women." He felt it most there. He spoke for me. He said, "I'm going to marry you here because I always said that I would never marry." He spoke in front of her because he never wanted to marry her. He was still using her to humiliate her. She is looking. "I'm coming to visit because I know he has no one. I'm coming to visit you, my 2 women." When we arrived, he spoke to the 2 of you in the room like that. "Look at my 2 women." They felt at ease. He spoke for me. "He went to the civil hospital to marry you because I always said that I would never marry you. He never wanted to marry you, but he was using you to humiliate her. He was looking for a priest to marry you here at the hospital." I said, "No, but I don't want to marry you. I will not come back with you. You will come back." When he left the hospital, I told him, "Oh, if you go to your apartment, I'll contract a nurse to take care of you until you start walking. Now, if you go to your mother's house, I never, but I." For a priest, such people are going to get married here at the hospital. I said, "No, but I don't want to marry you. I will not come back with you. You will come back." Back when he left the hospital, I told him, "Oh, if you go to your apartment, I'll contract a nurse to take care of you until you start walking. Now, if you go to your mother's house, I never, but I." Music. "I'm going to step because your mother hates me. I'm not going to her house, right? And nowadays, if she mistreats me, I play it there." Music. "He took it and went to her house, thinking, I'm the one who will go stay like this at my mother's house, right? And I didn't go. I wasn't. I had no strength from the get-go. Never. I'm sorry if I stepped on your mother's house. I'm sorry if your mother doesn't like me. I'm not going to her house, and if she's upset with me, I'll talk to her there. I thought I'd stay at my mother's house, but I didn't go. I didn't have the strength to go. I never went to visit her. I just went to the hospital. Then I wasn't." He called and talked to my brother. He said some friends told him that I was with someone else when he left. He was going to kill me. My brother said he was going to go there and talk to him. He never came back. He just talked to my brother about how I was guilty and that I was the one who left him with this leg problem. I felt so guilty, and I called him, but he didn't want to talk. I was upset, and I felt like I should have waited. I really loved him, and I wanted to be with a good husband. I started going out with other people, and then I met someone. I did what he wanted, but then I realized something. I started to call him more, and I started to feel mad and logical. I felt like I had to have waited. I really loved him and forgave him for the relationship, but I had that dream of getting married in the church to have a good husband. I started doing things for myself, going out with a guy. Then, I met someone new, and I was already doing therapy and taking care of myself. I was aware that I needed to like myself better and not let people do that to me. I found someone who no longer mistreated me. He appeared as an enchanted prince. My friends said, "Simone, I don't know if you were at my wedding." I congratulated him and gave him my phone. He was a very handsome man. I was already on my path to self-discovery, and I was doing therapy to understand myself better and protect myself from people who might not have my best interests at heart. I had this person in my life who was like an enchanted prince, and my friends said, "Simone." I'm not sure if I gave him my phone, but I congratulated him. He was a man who seemed to have it all, and I felt like I could trust him. But then, in 3 months, he said, "Let's get married." I knew what he was doing, and he said, "My mother thinks we should get married with total separation of goods." He wanted to be a man as soon as he had the financial means to do so. I was eager to give him what he wanted, but I had to be careful. I told him that I didn't want to play that game. In just 3 months, we decided to live together, and then he proposed marriage. I told him that my mother thought we should get married with a total separation of assets. I spoke to a friendly lawyer, my father's friend, who said that I shouldn't accept this because it would be shameful for me. He said that if he was an old millionaire and I was new, he could accept it, but he's not. He's a millionaire, trillion, something like that. I said I never saw anything wrong. He said this was just to humiliate you. I spoke to a friendly lawyer for my father, and he said that you don't want to accept this because it would be embarrassing for you at that time, right? He said that he was an old millionaire, and you were new. He could have been, but he wasn't. He is what he is, a trillion millionaire. I said, I never saw anything wrong. I don't know why he said this. It's just to humiliate your mother. He wants to humiliate you. I took another narcissistic mother-in-law there. I spoke, is the next. He will not understand us. Let's marry a partial normal person. He told me that he had money to receive, that he had it, and that he had it in the wedding. I would have to put my money in after. I would bring him that he was going to receive later. I was playing everything he wanted, a special wedding dress to marry dearly, and I was talking to a narcissistic mother-in-law, and he said, is the next. He didn't understand us. Let's get married in a nice place, and I'll bring the money. He said he had money saved up, and he'd give it to me after the wedding. I was trying to do everything he wanted for the wedding, and I was trying to solve everything. His mother was very funny because she didn't like me. I said people thought I was an pez because I said I didn't want to marry a white person. I was going to marry someone of another color. I spread that I was going to get married in red, and I was always like this, far ahead, very bold, and confident. Then I said, I'm getting married in red. You don't believe me. She appeared from red on the wedding day. He was so determined to solve everything by solving everything. His mother was a riot. She was funny, but in a strange way. I said I didn't like people, but I had an insect. I said I didn't want to marry anyone, but I was going to marry someone of a different color. Then I said I was going to get married in red, and I was always like this, far ahead, very bold, right? Then I said I was getting married in red, and she appeared from the altar in red, but I didn't go to the red one. I was a little more smart and logical, right? Because after all that, I passed, and I entered the period dress with the red dress. She stayed frustrated because it was red to compete, and I was not red, right? We got married, and then it happened. Everything happened like this for me, not marrying, but I had that dream. I had the Cinderella complex, and I said, no, me. I'm going to marry. I was all ready. On the day she was in the altar, I chose a beautiful red dress, but she didn't accept it. I thought I was being smart and logical, but after all that happened, I chose a rosé dress with a period dress. She was a bit frustrated because it was red, and I wanted to compete. We got married, and then everything changed. I didn't marry, but I had that dream, the Cinderella complex. I said, no, I'm going to marry. I was already seeing some strange things, and then I got here. We went to open an account in the bank, and I sent his documents because he wanted to have an account where we could both have access to it. I said, let's make a joint account, to the bank that gave credit to people. I had a credit card, and he wanted to get into the account too. Why? He said he had gone to live in France when he met me, and he was tired. I was thinking about some strange things, and then I got here. We went to the bank to open an account, and I sent his documents because he wanted to have an account where we could put our money together. I said, let's make a joint account at the bank that gives credit to people. I had a credit card, and he wanted to get into the account too. He said he had just arrived from France to live there, and he was tired of traveling. I realized that something was happening in the house. He was in his mother's house, and something was wrong. He said, you don't know what is there. I dated a girl several years ago, and I broke up with her. I decided to leave, and she didn't accept it. When I was here, about 6 months later, she knocked on my door. Mother of Malku, she said, no, I do not accept the separation. He left me there, and she came behind me. I had already said that. I realized that something was happening in the house where he was staying. It was his mother's house, and I thought, there's something going on here. He said, you don't know what's going on. I dated a girl for several years, and then I broke up with her. I decided to leave, but she didn't accept it. When I was there for about 6 months, she knocked on my door. She was the mother of Malku, and she said, "No, I don't accept the separation." He left me there, and she came behind me. I said, "I don't want anything to do with her, but she's there." I said, "But her mother let her in, and she's living in your mother's house." He spoke because it is he. I said, "But I have nothing to do with her. I'll take you there so you can see for yourself." I went with him for a day, and she spoke French to him. She said some things to him, and I kept looking at her. I didn't, but I'll be with her. I don't want anything to do with her, but she's there. I said, "But her mother let her in, and she's living in your mother's house." He spoke because it is he. I said, "I have nothing to do with her. I'll take you there for you to see, and then I'll go with him." A day later, we went there, and she spoke French with him. I kept looking at her, but he didn't let me talk to her. I also don't speak French, and she didn't speak Portuguese. We went, and then the manager called when we went to open the account in the bank. The manager called and said, "Simone, come here for people to talk." I went there at that time, and people stayed a lot with the manager. She said, "Look, I got up his chip. He has several CPFs." I said, "What she said is he has more than." He didn't let me talk to her, even though I don't speak French and she didn't speak Portuguese. We went to the bank, and the manager called me over. He said, "Simone, come here. People are waiting for you." I went over, and the manager said, "Look, I got his chip. He has several CPFs." I said, "What she said is he has more than one CPF." She said, "That's not possible." I said, "His name, right surname, has no how to have you know there." I waited for him to come back. The night came, and I told him, the special account was not approved because more CPF appeared in your name." I said, "You don't want to explain to me?" Because before he spoke to me, I lost my wallet and documents. He said, "I'm taking other documents," and I mentioned that I couldn't do one CPF, and she said, "Okay, but his name is right there." I said, "I'm sorry, but I don't understand. What happened?" I was trying to figure out what was going on because it didn't seem to make sense. I went to talk to his mother, thinking she would be able to help me understand. I thought she would be honest, and I hoped she could help me. But his mother said no, and she also invented a story. I said, "This is your true." He said he had lost the documents, so I offered to help. I went to his place and took another CPF for him. I said, "What is this?" I didn't understand. I don't know what invented a history means. It didn't stick with me. I went to talk to his mother, thinking she would be able to help. I thought she would be honest, but she invented a story, too. I said, "Then this is your true CPF. He has a form of debt, so far there is no problem. Everyone has debt, everyone knows that. One day, you will owe this. It's not shameful for anyone, right?" I said, "The problem is that you have done another CPF. This is Leonato, right? Then this is complicated. We will not talk more in this. Leave." I don't know what, and I stayed there. He started, "Right? Not because I want you to have a child. Let's get together." CPF, he has a form of debt, but that's not a problem. Everyone has debt, it's not something to be ashamed of. The problem is that you have done another CPF. This is Leonato, which complicates things. We won't talk about it anymore. I don't know what happened, but he started right away. "I don't want you to have a child. Let's have one together." I said, "Okay, good. Let's have a child. I also want to be a mother." I was already in my 30s, so I said, "I want to be a mother, and we can be together." He always had no money. I got a job for him. I said, "Oh, he was a plane pilot. He studied only to get it." My father arranged for him to take a test. I said, "Let's have a child. We can have a child, and then another child, and so on." "Right, and let's have one," he said. "I also want to be a mom. I'm already 30, so I want to have more children, and I want to be a mom with you." I got a job for him, I said. He was a plane pilot, and he studied hard. My father arranged for him to take a test in aviation, but I don't know what happened to him. I don't know if he passed the English test. He didn't pass the test, but he wanted to be a helicopter pilot. Then he had a problem with the wing, and he didn't pass the health test. I'll find something else for him, right? I said, we have some friends who have a dealership. I have a friend who is a saleswoman at a dealership, and there was this aviation company that I don't even remember the name of because it doesn't exist anymore. I don't know if he passed the English test or not because I don't know what happened. He wanted to be a helicopter pilot, but he had a problem with his wing. He didn't pass the health test. I said, I'll find something else for you. We have some friends who have a dealership. I have a friend who is a saleswoman there, and her boyfriend is the manager. You can work there to get ready, he said. Oh, all right. I was working there. I started to work there. I said, are we going well there? I got pregnant during the pregnancy, and he behaved. I didn't see anything wrong, so he was working there. His father sold a house and land, and he spoke for him. I said, I'll give you a part of the money. Let's set up a business together. These two people solved the problem and set up a car store. Her boyfriend is the manager, and you'll be working there to get ready. He said, oh, all right, I'll work there. We started working there, and I said, we're doing well. I got pregnant during the pregnancy, and he behaved. I didn't see anything wrong, and he was working there. His father sold a house and land for him, and he spoke for him. I said, I'll give you a part of the money. Let's set up a business together. These two people solved the problem and set up a car store. So, far right, me. I still talk to his mother. I said, this will work out. She said, no, and it will work. It was already separated. He was a guy, so he was forbidden to call her. I didn't know about all this. I did a very fast thing. There was no time, right? When he took me to meet his father, he harassed me. His father, Dale, told him to me, and I was I was talking to his mom, saying, I'm sure everything will work out. But she said, no, it won't. They were already separated. He was a guy, so he wasn't allowed to call her. I didn't know any of this. I did something really fast, and there wasn't much time. When he took me to meet his dad, Dale, harassed me. He told him to make me sit on his lap. I said, don't imagine that I'll sit on your lap. Then I looked at him, and I thought, you won't do anything. He said, you think he will take action against me? He was armed. He said, shoot him right in front of you. The man drank a lot, but I didn't feel afraid. I was scared of the dad, and he was complimenting me while his dad watched. I said, don't imagine that I'm sitting on your lap. He looked at me and said, you won't do anything? I replied, you think he will take action against me? He was armed. He said he would shoot me right in front of you. The man drank a lot, but I didn't feel afraid. You know, the father was making compliments to me, and he was watching and talking to his father. Music. Then we came back, and he started his business with his father. I had a medical agreement, so I didn't need anything. This car store started to appear a lot, and money started to flow in. Things began to happen, and then, when he started to get money, he started disappearing. He left suddenly one day and said, let's have a business to close there at the beach. So, we came back, and he started his business with his father. I had a medical agreement, so I didn't need anything. This car store started to appear a lot, and money started to flow in. He started walking in a car, and a lot of things began to happen. Then, when he started to get money, he started disappearing. He left one morning, suddenly saying, let's have a business to close there at the beach. I didn't know what was happening. Suddenly, he started bringing a girl who said she was their secretary. He even brought her to have lunch at home. I was doing food for his lover, but I found her strange. Everything was fine right there until one day, when I'm working at my father's restaurant, some researchers called me to the table with them. He spoke, saying, oh, I'm thankful to God I never went to the store because of his father. I was in the dark about what was going on. Then, out of the blue, he started bringing a girl who said she was their secretary. She even brought her to have lunch at home. I was doing food for his lover, but I found her strange. Everything was fine right up until one day when I was working at my father's restaurant and some researchers called me over to their table. He said, oh, I'm so thankful that I never went to the store because of your father. I never wanted to go. He continued, this is your husband. He is part of a gang. They heat up car documents. I won't even explain the step-by-step, but we are already investigating. We want to give a flagrant warning. And this happens that there are some of them who were there, right? He said, I know, I know you because we walked in the same class, and I told them who I was sure you didn't know. I don't want to, he said. This is your husband. He's part of a gang. He's part of a gang. Heat up the car documents. I won't even explain the step by step, but we are already investigating. We want to give a flagrant right. And this happens that there were some of them who were there, right? He said, I know you because we walked in the same class, such and such. I told them who I was sure you wouldn't be involved, but they were part of people following you. They raised you on the bank. If this money rolls in your account, and we find out that you don't know anything, I'll be very surprised. I don't even know. I don't really know after that day. I started receiving people right away. Such a man. I'm working on the guy. He told him that her husband used his CPF. I started to receive people accusing why I don't know how they learned she's the. I'm here, but I'm not involved. I'm just watching from the sidelines. People are following you already. If this money rolls in your account, and we find out that you don't know anything about it, I'll be the one to tell you. I don't even know anything. I said I don't know. I don't really know after that day. I started receiving people right away. Such a man. I'm working on the guy. He told him her husband used my CPF. I started to receive people accusing me. I don't know how they learned. They learned she's the daughter of the so-and-so, such and such a famous restaurant. Then you know. Even I received. I had one day that I was desperate, just crying. My friend called me and said, drop everything. Here, come lunch with me. Let's have lunch. Let's get to the head. I went to a rental killer in a restaurant because when it happened, he started to come at home, follow me, and such. I spoke to him. I arrived to him and daughter of the famous restaurant, I know what you're going through. I had a friend who called me one day and said, hey, drop everything and come over for lunch. Let's get to the bottom of this. So, I went to a rental car dealership in a restaurant because when it happened, he started following me at home. I spoke to him, and I said, look, we need to find a way to solve this. You can work honestly, or I'll ask you to go away because I won't be conniving with this. I'll talk to the truth. He said, I'm leaving because no one makes money in this dishonest way in Brazil. I'm going away. And just before I left, I had the courage to say, look, I have a suitcase with secrets in it, and one day he didn't put the secret in it. I opened it, and I said, oh, for everything now. Now, we find a way to solve this right, and you will work honestly, or I ask you to go away because I won't be conniving with this. I will talk to True. He said, I'm leaving because no one makes money in this Brazil working honestly. Then, I'm going away. Just before I left, I had the courage to say, he had a suitcase with such secrets. One day, he did not put the secret in it. I opened it and found false identities to remove the documents. They're in the car, D-Tran right. Then, he had 2 pictures of mine, 3 for 4. He was going to make a fake identity with my photo. I told him, why do you have my photo? Because you are mine, woman. I love you. I walk with your photo, but I have a beautiful photo of recent work. I have photos made in the studio. You will get a 3 for 4 that we. I was able to convince him that I was who I said I was. I told him that I had 2 pictures of him, and he said he needed 3. I told him, I have a beautiful photo of you from a recent photo shoot. I'll give you 3 for 4. He looked at the photos and said, this is not what I thought it would be. Then I said something wrong, and he saw an identity with his photo on it, but another name was listed. He was going to use my photo with another name, but then he ran away when he saw that things were getting out of hand. Then this killer came and said, my brother, you are here. He said, oh, here is my father's restaurant. He spoke. You are Simone's brother. I said, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say that. I just wanted to help. He looked at me, and I could see that he was trying to figure out what to do. Then, he said, my brother, from Simone? Why, my brother, I'm here because of her husband. He got into a fight with a guy from Root, and the guy hired me to pick up your sister because she must know where he is hiding. My brother spoke, for God's sake, she doesn't know where he is hiding, and you trust me. You know me. You know who I am. You met my mother. My brother and him were inseparable growing up. I said, I'm here because of her husband. He got into a scuffle with a guy from Root, and the guy hired me to pick up your sister because she must know where he's hiding. My brother said, she doesn't know where he is hiding. You know where he is, and you trust me. You know me. You know who I am. You met my mother, we've known each other since we were kids. She doesn't know where he is hiding, and she doesn't know. She didn't even know he was doing these things. They did everything you can imagine wrong in this store. The worst is that they took a boy who was an honest family worker, who didn't speak, and rented a store in his name. He was the guarantor for single land that his family owned. When they, ever since we were kids, she didn't have a clue about where he was hiding. She had no idea. She didn't even know he was up to all these things. They did everything you could think of wrong in this store. And the worst part, they took a good boy, a family worker, who didn't speak up, and rented the store in his name. He was the guarantor for the single land his family owned. When they started doing these wrong things, they did them in secret from the boy. By the time the boy found out, it was too late. He had already signed a lot of things and was totally involved. Then, he almost got caught, and on that day, the guy came to take it in the car. The boy, who also had nothing to do, was going to beat him for him. Imagine what they were going to do with me. I said, I never left at lunch. It was a delivery. Even you. They started doing things the wrong way, and they did them in secret from the boy. When the boy found out, it was already too late. He had already signed a lot of things, and he was totally involved. Then, he almost got into a car accident, and on that same day, the guy came to take it in the car. The boy, who also had nothing to do, was going to beat him up. Imagine what they were going to do to me. I never left at lunch, and I was a delivery person. Even my brother managed to convince him, but he spoke to his sister. Risk saw because he shouted at people who would not accept the blow, and then he managed to escape. Country, that was when I planned my suicide. I said, I don't work with anyone. No one has no way. I planned with whom my daughter was going to be created. I imagined I would go up in the building. I knew where I could jump, and I said, it will be. My brother was able to convince him, and he looked at his sister. Risk saw because he shouted at people who wouldn't accept the situation, and then he managed to escape the country. That was when I planned my suicide. I said, I don't work with anyone. For me, there's no way. I planned with whom my daughter was going to be created. I imagined I would go up in the building. I knew where I could jump, and I said, it will be. The only one, my way for my life, because I can't spread these people to my mother's heart. She's sick doing hemodialysis. People cursing me from everything. It was a name, thinking that I was part of a gang. I spoke, I have no solution to. I have to disappear right there. I entered into depression. I planned everything right, and when it was the day I was going to do this, I had a miracle that for some right like that. I believe in God, I believe. I'm not sure if I'm right, but I had a sign. I said, look at me. Do this. I would have to have a signal that I can handle. I will be able to solve it and leave that right. As soon as it would not happen in the world, naturally, I said, I'm shocked. So I'll stay. I had this miracle, this sign. It was God, but those who don't believe understand. I had a sign because I said, look at me. Do this. I will have a signal that I can handle. I will be able to solve it. I will be able to leave that right. And I had this signal. It knew something. As soon as it would not happen in the world, naturally, I said, I'm shocked. So I'll stay, then, I had this miracle, this sign, divine right, because we happened. We were going through a situation. He left me a lot of accounts. Also, so I didn't know what to do, and then we had a TV cable we don't pay because we had to give priority to some things, right? And my father was like, priority for my restaurant. I will pay everything there is. If here is missing, what is missing? For him, his life was there. Know that. It was his abandonment, also in relation to home, my mother, right? We didn't pay the cable bill because we were going through a tough time. My father was really supportive of my restaurant, and he was always there for me. He was my rock. He was also my anchor when it came to home life. We didn't pay the cable bill because we were working hard and didn't have the money. The TV was old and didn't work well, but we kept it because it was important to us. I came back to the place I was, and I spoke to someone. I said, I don't know what's going on. I don't even have a working television. We didn't pay for cable TV, which was linked to everyone. The channels weren't even open. We worked, and we heard that squeaking on TV. It was tube TV. It was another thing, right? This was already 20 years ago. Then, what happened? I came back to the place I was, and I spoke to someone. I don't know. I sat down, and I said, "Hey, do you want to know? Television isn't even working, right?" My father and mine had already spoken there. I tried, but I couldn't get any channel. "It doesn't take it right there," I said. Then I started tightening. I turned on the TV. I said, doesn't take it, but I will try." I started to pass, suddenly stopped on a channel, and opened it. The channel was a person saying religious things that God restores life for those people who are bankrupt and that there is no way to pay and who think that the world is over, and I had already spoken there. I tried to get on any channel, but it didn't work. I said, "I'm sorry, but I'll try." I turned on the TV and said, I don't take it, but I'll try." I suddenly stopped on a channel and opened it. The channel was a person talking about how God restores life for those who are bankrupt and that there is no way to pay. They thought that the world was over and that they didn't have a solution. They didn't see a light at the bottom of the tunnel. I said, "I understand. I'll try." I went to my father's television. I was in the room and spoke to my dad. I said, "Dad, the television downstairs works on a channel." He said, "How did I know? I just called here, trying not to take anything. I went there just to take this channel." This person was talking to my brother, who only took this channel. Then I went to my room, which I had not been in until then. I felt like I couldn't find a solution, like there was no light at the end of the tunnel. So I said, "Hey, there's a light here." I went to my dad's TV and said, "Dad, the TV's on a channel." He said, "I just called to try not to take it." I went to the channel where someone was talking, and it was my brother. He was watching a channel, and then I went to my room. When I got home, we were all really into TV. Everyone had a TV. I went to my room and only took this channel. My dad was watching TV with my mom. We were like this, 3 of us. What a strange thing. I didn't take anything. I cut the cable, even the post, and only took this channel. I said, "My answer is that I'll face it because I have a daughter to create too." Then I came back to reality. When I got home, I noticed that everyone in my family was really into watching TV. I had a room just for watching TV, and my parents would watch TV with me. It was a little strange at first, but I got used to it. I didn't want to change anything, so I stuck with it. I said, "I'll deal with it because I have a daughter who needs to be taken care of." I came back to reality. I have a daughter who needs to be taken care of. I didn't go, so I'll talk for people who don't agree with this. I put it out there, though. It was a very hard time, but I kept going and studying. I couldn't pay for therapy, so I started reading and researching if I could get free therapy. I found a therapy group at SUS, and I started going to therapy meetings at my neighborhood health center. I didn't stop taking care of myself. I'm the daughter of a wonderful woman who passed away. I didn't go to her funeral because I didn't want to go alone. I didn't agree with the idea of talking to people who didn't know her. I put it out of my mind, though, and continued my studies. It was a very difficult time, but I persevered. I started reading and researching free therapy options. I found a therapy group at the health department in my neighborhood. I didn't give up on myself. I said I didn't want to take my life again. I was facing people who were pointing the finger at me, and I continued to treat myself. I continued to study, and then I started working. I went running after fixing a new partner for my father. I took care of things, and things started to flow. Then a friend started to say, "I have a friend." I said I didn't want to take my life again, and I meant it. I was facing people pointing the finger at me, and I continued to treat myself the same way. I continued to study, and then I started working. I went running after fixing a new partner for my father. I took care of things, and things started to flow. Then a friend started to say, "I have a friend who is passing everything you passed. You don't talk, she converses. She starts talking to one, and then she talks to another. Suddenly, a friend who knows that I left it right, she married, and then the husband gave rise in it. I opened my door, and my friend is all injured. She came to me, and I welcomed her. I started working and talking. So I am what I want to be. My life only while my father was alive. He didn't give me this freedom. I'm so grateful for your support throughout my journey. You've been a constant presence in my life, a shoulder to lean on, a source of strength, and a guiding light. I've always felt a deep sense of connection to you, and your presence in my life has been invaluable. When I was going through a difficult time, you were there for me. You were the one who encouraged me to speak up, to speak out, and to be myself. You were a listening ear, a shoulder to lean on, and a guiding light. I've always felt a deep sense of connection to you, and your presence in my life has been invaluable. I've always felt a deep sense of connection to you, and your presence in my life has been invaluable. I had one woman going through a difficult relationship. I was helping her, and I was doing my courses and everything. I said, when I don't need work, I'll go to the restaurant. My father was sick, and we were turning off because it was too much. I'll start attending as a psychotherapist. I'm also an image consultant, so I took courses in the beauty area. I think women need to know that they're not alone. I had a difficult time in a relationship where I was being mistreated. It continued even after I finished my courses and started working at the restaurant with my father. It was a lot for me to handle, and it ended up hurting me. I decided to become a psychotherapist, and I also took courses in the beauty industry because I think that women can be affected by this in both their inner and outer selves. She had been through a lot of mistreatment, and she spoke about it in a way that made me wonder how she could look so good. I didn't know how to buy clothes that would suit me, or how to combine them in a way that made me look good. I didn't know how to see that I had a problem. I was already a businesswoman, and I decided to create an integrative work even to help her get back into the labor market. Then, I had women who sent me messages. She's been through a lot, both visually and internally. She's been speaking up lately, and I'm trying to understand how she looks. I'm not sure what kind of hair would suit me, or how to dress well. I don't know how to see myself as I am, even though I'm already a businesswoman. I'm putting her back into the labor market, and I have women who send me feedback. Simone, I'm working with others now. I found a person who's good in my life, and I'm grateful that I spoke up for you. I never thought I'd have a good husband, but I'm so lucky. I also met a person who is now my husband. We've been married for over 20 years, and he adopted my little daughter. He carried her on his lap, and today, he's her father. People seem to know him, and they talk to me, so she looks. Today, I'm sharing some thoughts on feedback. I've been working with others, and I've found that it's really good to have a person in my life. I'm grateful that I spoke up for you, and I think it's a positive thing that I'm doing today. I have a good husband, and I'm lucky. I also met a person who is now my husband. We've been married for over 20 years, and he adopted my little daughter. He's her father, and she looks more like him than you. She barely knows that he's her stepfather, but she knows he's her father. They have a special connection, you know? She has her own way of doing things, and God has restored my life from beginning to end. Today, I have a relationship that makes sense, and marriage isn't perfect. We have differences, and we were each raised in different homes and live differently. But today, I can say what I like and dislike. Today, I can come here and I'm so glad we're on the same page. I feel like I'm finally free to be myself, and I'm so grateful that he supports me. I mean, we have a connection, right? I mean, she has his way, and God restored my life from beginning to end. I mean, today, I have a relationship that makes sense, and marriage isn't perfect, is it? We have differences, we were raised in different homes, and we live differently, but today, I can say what I like and dislike. Today, I can come here and say, oh, tomorrow, I'm going to tell my history, and I'm a free person. I have the freedom to go, although I also have the freedom to stay if I want. And he has the freedom to do the same. We're together, and it's good for us, right? He's a person. What? In a relationship, you have to admire the person with you, and the character of a person is the most important. You know that you can. I asked for permission to come here, right? I said, oh, tomorrow I'm going to tell you my history, so I am a free person. I have the freedom to go, although when I want to stay, I can. And he also has the freedom to stay. We are together, and it's good for us, right? He's a person. What? Because in a relationship, you have to admire the person with you, right? And the character of a person is the most important. You know that, don't you? Trust that person. That's it. I got it. I took me a long time to fix this side. It took me a lot, but it's never too late. There are women today getting married at 70 years old with their love of their life. a childhood that they dropped out, and today they live a happy life. So, if I can do this with the women today, I feel like I'm a sheriff. Trusting someone is such a powerful thing. It's like finding a cure for an addiction, or a way to treat a really complex issue. It's not easy, but it's never too late. There are women today who got married at 70 years old, and they're still happily married to their high school sweethearts. If I can do this with a woman today, then I'm a sheriff. I understand why a woman might be in an abusive relationship. If you need help, I'm here for you. Women need to understand that if Eve ate the apple, it wasn't her fault. I'm not guilty. We have the right to live our lives freely and to love and think for ourselves. A sheriff knows why I see a woman in an abusive relationship. If I ask, do you need help? I'm here for you. Women need to understand that if Eve ate the apple, it wasn't meant for her. I'm not feeling any guilt. We have the right to live our lives freely and to love and be loved. It's not useful to want someone else to love you if you don't love yourself. You shouldn't go to the hands of men who have experienced trauma, childhoods, or don't love each other. If they're willing to forgive, then just make a treatment plan. It's like a person with an addiction who needs treatment. An emotional codependent needs a cure, but a narcissistic or perverse pathological man has no cure. The more you please him, the worse he stays with you, because if you're always trying to meet someone else's needs, you might be missing out on the love and attention you deserve. It's like you're in a cycle of codependence, and it's not healthy. I've been through a lot, and I've learned a lot too. I'm not perfect, but I'm doing my best. I'm here to help, even if I'm not always the best at it. I'm not going to let that stop me from loving myself and living my best life. I'm so grateful that I'm in a place where I can offer support and help. I'm doing my best, and I'm so happy that I'm not worrying anymore. I want to have enough money to buy a bag of a brand that I had when I was sick. I was a compulsive buyer, and I'm so thankful that my husband has been able to support me. I don't want to work like this, and I'm grateful that he understands. I'm so grateful that I'm able to say that I love it today. I don't worry anymore. I want to have money to buy a bag of a brand that I had at the time. I was a compulsive buyer, right? The replacing, no today. I'm so thankful that the money isn't the same today. My husband has enjoyed that I don't stay working like this. He knows us too, and he doesn't want me to. If I have enough for the minimum to take care of myself, we're fine at home. So it's already good. I was like that before I stayed like that. I need to do a business that makes money. I need a company. Let's go. Open here. Let's open there. For the love of God, almost. Puriya knows later. I spoke to a therapist who spoke for me, right? Said funny, right? I'm doing my best to take care of myself and my family. I'm doing well at home, so that's good. But I'm struggling to find a job that pays well. I need to start a business. I need a job that gives me money. I need a company. I need to open here. I need to open there. I'm doing my best. I even spoke with a therapist who said I was funny. I said, wow, I try a lot of things. He said, because you are not doing what you love. You are a therapist. You love making it do this because you don't just stop running behind money. I said, is true for that. I'm running money if I want peace right then. Times we are wrong. He also knows that I have to give everything for my children. I have to buy what he wants. I'm not saying you should just give him to whatever he wants. I'm saying that sometimes, even if you try your best, you can't control what other people do. I'm not saying that just because I dress well, I'm automatically a better person. I thought that if I dressed in the best clothes, people would love me. But I was wrong. I ended up feeling envious and upset because I couldn't please everyone. I'm not saying you should be against having money. I'm saying that if you have it, you should be able to do whatever you want with it. That's all I'm saying. I know he's not asking for much. I know it's not that simple, but I really believe that loving someone doesn't require expensive, fancy clothes. I used to think that if I dressed in the best clothes and drove the nicest car, people would love me. But I realized that's not true. I'm not against splurging if you've got the money and you like it. I'm not against that at all. But I don't need to charge myself in that way. I have to win in my life. I have to earn well. I don't know if this is what I want. But today, I'm free. You like the story of Simone, right? Who makes this channel our real women like me, like you. Then help us in this mission of freeing women who live in abusive relationships. Share our content with everyone you like. I'm not in a place where I need to charge myself to find a way to win in my life. I've got to earn a good living. I'm not sure if this is what I want. But today, I'm free. You like the story of Simone, right? She's an amazing woman, just like you and me. Let's work together to free women who are in abusive relationships. Share our content with everyone you know. And if you want to tell your story on our channel, just fill out the form in the description. The next story that will be featured on our channel is from Chris. She fell in love with a Spanish man, and it was wonderful. But I don't want to spoil the story for anyone. So, subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell to get new stories every Monday and Thursday.